Hello everybody, and welcome back. My name is Antonio, and this is Antonio with Tech. I've been using the Google Pixel 6 Pro for about a week now, and boy oh boy. This time around, Google pulled through with the flagship phone that hits on the premium phones. In previous years, it's been at times hard to compare or even compete with the iPhones, but I do think with this year's phone, Google was able to deliver on better hardware, which is a huge step compared to previous years. Most of the stuff was primarily software and camera. So without further ado, let's get started with the review and let's break it down. So first of all, I want to get out of the way is price. Pixel 6 Pro selling price starts at $899 for the 128GB storage model, $999 if you want 256GB, and $1,099 for 512GB. However, the sort of sunny color that I have only comes in the 128GB model. Pricing wise, when compared to other flagship models, it is cheaper than others, but does that mean that it compromises in quality, design, battery, and hardware? Not necessarily. The build and design. The first thing up is with the build and design of the phone would be the camera visor. As you can see this little thing right here, this basically has been one of the biggest kind of design things that it's kind of recognizable for the Pixel 6 Pro this year. It's kind of a little notch that elevates and it's a little bit lifted off. It doesn't bother me too much, honestly. I think like you can place your finger right below it and it's very nice, very comfortable. Doesn't really bother me, but I know it's kind of a little bit of a, I guess you can say, controversial design in certain ways, just because it's like lifted off instead of being flat. I think it looks good. I think it gives it a different kind of style to it. Now the displays and the material. Pixel 6 Pro comes with a smooth display up to 120GHz and Corning Gorilla Victus cover glass, and it gives it a premium feel and look to this phone, especially when compared to the Pixel 5G from last year. I liked it when it came out. I didn't have too many complaints about it, but it didn't feel so much as a premium. I know that it felt more premium than previous models, as I keep saying. Like I feel like every single Google phone, each year that passes, they do improve on a lot of things, and for the longest time, I think the hardware was the biggest thing that was lacking, especially this year when combining the hardware, software, the chip that I will cover in a little bit, and just the overall design of it, comparing to the previous years, I think it's a huge step. As you can see, like the difference between the two, like you can tell that this is a premium phone and this is kind of just like a cheaper competitor to just a phone, you know what I mean? Still has solid camera. The Pixel 5G still has a solid camera. You can still probably compete with this phone on the camera, but look-wise, design-wise, feel-wise, and just overall, this phone is much elegant. The back of the phone is made out of the edgeless Corning glass with polished alloy frame. Now, one of the biggest changes I feel compared to last year or in previous Google Pixel models is the fingerprint sensor. Last year, you had to unlock the phone with the back area, so you had to like put your finger back here. And at times, the sensor will get sometimes like a little bit dirty, so you have to clean it off, and it just became so much of like hassle sometimes if you're just trying to quickly unlock it from the front. This year, they chose to go with the fingerprint sensor at the front of the screen, so you just have to unlock it at the front of your screen. So under the display fingerprint sensor. I know some people have had issues with the sensor on these phones, and I can confirm that it can be a bit finicky, but it works. I think sometimes what happens is that if you don't put your finger exactly right in the middle of that sensor, it's going to identify as a partial fingerprint and it won't unlock the phone. And there are times, yes, that I have had to like pull my finger on and take it off for it to unlock. So it can be a little bit annoying at times. I do feel or hope that they do fix that, maybe through some sort of software, or maybe in the future models they do fix some of those issues for the under the display fingerprint sensor. Now the battery. This has been for years and years of extremely poor battery and a small ass battery too. Like for so many years, the Pixel phones have had a lot of components or a lot of things that drain the battery really fast, from the camera to some of the features that maybe like can do auto captioning. All of those things require a lot of battery and they drain the battery very fast. For so many years when the Google Pixel only had like about 3,000 or 4,000 of mAh, and it just didn't feel too much like you had a premium phone and the battery just was very lackluster. But with this year's phone, they improved it up to a minimum of 4,105 and a typical of 5,003. So much larger battery, faster charge with the new block that you have to buy separately at the 30 watt block. So it charges your battery much faster and it lasts for much longer. That of course is on paper. Does that actually mean that it has better battery and longer use time for this phone? I did some tests. This is what I found. One day I unplugged my phone around 9 a.m. and didn't plug it in until about 8 p.m. and it still had about 30% of battery. So some things to consider is that I was on multiple video calls throughout the day with Messenger for over 2 hours in total. I watched a few videos on Instagram, TikTok, had some music playing at times on Spotify. I did other video calls here and there for short periods of time, a few calls. I took some photos. I recorded a few videos. And the battery was only at 30% after like a pretty decent day of use. Of course, towards the end of the day, I had put the phone into the feature called Stream Battery Saver, where it disables apps that you're not using and you don't plan to use. And you can select which apps you want the phone to kind of disable for the moment. And also individually, if you want to open an app, you can just say pause it temporarily, or just it will tell you like this app is at the moment disabled. Do you want to activate it? You can just click on that. Once that dropped to below 30%, that was turned on. And I did about like 2 hours and a half of a video call after 8 p.m. From 30%, it only went down to 15% with that feature. So basically what I did, I disabled all the other apps. The only app running was the phone app, the messages app, I think Instagram, and Messenger, just to have the video call running. And I think I maybe had like the Chrome browser open and I closed that at one point. So it has a pretty solid battery, and when you add the Extreme Battery Saver feature, it will make your battery last for a long time. Some additional tests including using Google Maps and playing music from Spotify in the car. And well, that drained the battery fairly fast, but those two are battery drainers. I mean, if you have ever used Google Maps or Apple Maps or any sort of map app, you will know that battery will die. Even if you have a really solid battery and maybe an external battery, it will drain the hell out of that battery very fast, especially when you combine Google Maps and Spotify. Now the camera. I was so excited to get my hands on this phone primarily due to the camera and a few other features. You can now record up to 4K on both the back camera and the front-facing selfie camera. Yes, both cameras shoot up to 4K at 30 and 60 frames per second on the back camera and up to 30 frames on the front-facing camera at 4K. Both cameras at 4K. I'm not very familiar with other phones. I know there's probably other phones out there that do have the same and similar features, but I do think that with how the Pixel cameras have been in the past and how they continue to evolve and upgrade across the years, even if it wasn't through hardware and through just software and the AI they were using, this year they improved on actual hardware, which means that when you include that with the software on the phone that's already very advanced, and you add upgraded hardware to those cameras and you're able to shoot 4K on both cameras, that's a huge game changer for content creators, for just any person that is creating content out there that needs camera. If you're doing stories, if you're recording videos for your Instagram page, you can record YouTube videos. I mean, a lot of people already do that, but like you can literally record from your front-facing camera, vlogs, and any sort of related thing like that from your phone without having to carry around a big-ass camera. Now that we're done with that, some of the new features that I'm very excited to kind of explain and kind of go a little bit over them. And it was a huge draw for me to upgrade to the new phone. One of them was the Magic Eraser feature, which is probably the biggest feature on this phone. And the way that you can explain it is basically AI-powered Photoshop for object removal. Now, is it perfect? No. It depends on what you're trying to remove. In most cases, it would do a pretty solid job. But in others, well, it can look like a smudge with shadows and just not right. But this tool has a lot of potential to grow over the next few years. I do think that as Google is able to upgrade and maybe take some feedback from people using it, and as technology continues to develop, I think it's a huge feature just because, I mean, sometimes you have people that walk behind you, they photobomb you. And if you're able to remove that just directly from your phone and being able to remove it in a way that it looks nice and people can't notice a difference, it's a huge plus. You don't have to go into your computer and try to learn how to use Photoshop. You can just do it directly from your phone. Now, some of the other features include speech enhancement and noise reduction, which is another feature that I'm quite impressed by and basically works to reduce wind noise and enhance your voice, which makes your life easier when editing audio. The only complaint that I have is that it doesn't have a way to control how much noise reduction it uses, which means some videos will be over-processed a bit. Is it a huge problem? No, you can go into Audition or any sort of like audio editor and edit some of those stuff out. But I do wish that they had a way to maybe post-production or even before you start recording to select whether you want low, medium, high, depending on your situation. Like if you're instead of a home that has an AC running, you can choose that ability to have a lower kind of noise reduction. And when you're outside and you need to record videos outside and audio with the wind blowing on you, you can select the higher quality of noise reduction. But overall, a pretty sweet feature that you can use, and it improves the mic on your phone. It makes it a lot easier to edit your audio in the back end. Other features that I saw that I think changed, that improve so much and make it more easier to use a phone, like the Google Pixel for photography, is the face and blur, the manual white balancing, top shot, and real tone. Face and blur basically works in a way where like if a photo was taken and the face was blurred, you can unblur it in post-production. The manual white balancing, I think, adds just features that a lot of photographers and people who use phones, kind of more of the ability to shoot it from a phone like you would with a DSLR camera. Then you have real tone and top shot, which you can read a little more about it. Basically, it just, as I said, it kind of adds more to that whole perspective of having more control on your phone as you would on a DSLR camera. For years, the one thing that the Pixel phones had over other phones had been the camera, and this year it continues that tradition and takes it even further with hardware upgrades to the already amazing software that Google has been known for the last few years. Performance. How does this phone perform? Because at the end of the day, without performance, you have a potato. So from testing and using it for over a week, I can surely say that it gives the best performance out of any Pixel phone yet. In previous years, I had issues with overheating, slow processing times on a lot of things, from apps to camera to pretty much anything you were trying to do with your phone. And I think the biggest drawback last year was literally just the processing when they took off the dedicated chip for processing images. So this year I think that improves because of Google's Tensor chip that allows it to push the phone to its limits and boundaries without compromising on performance. And that's in part because of the AI that they're using combined with their own ability to create their own chip, which means that they're customizing the chip to what the phone needs rather than making the phone to what the limitations of a pre-made chip is. And maybe, yes, they ask for some customizations, but when you have and you make your own chips in-house, I think it makes it a lot easier to push your phones to the boundaries and still deliver on higher performance than other phones would. Some final thoughts. Overall, this is hands down the best Pixel phone yet. From the design to the performance, it is looking, feeling, and performing more and more like a true flagship big dog phone. The biggest things that could be a draw for you can be the camera, the overall performance. You may also like the design. It also depends on how you like your phone to look and what you're into in terms of phones and phone design. For me also, the price point without compromising on performance and quality is a huge factor for why I continue to use Pixel phones since the Pixel 2 came out. Because for years, yes, the Pixel phones have been a little bit behind in terms of performance and sometimes hardware and sometimes even software has been lackluster at times. Performance has not been the best. And the one thing that always remained consistent was the camera and just the overall feel to the phone and the price point. The price point I think was always for me a big draw because I didn't want to spend $1,300 on a phone when I could get a similar phone. Even if it wasn't with the most upgraded hardware, it still had solid camera, solid performance for what the price point was. And all those phones, I think the Pixel 6 Pro stands closer and closer to what those phones do with less of that price point. And is it as, I guess you can say, as popular or as performance heavy or able to use LiDAR sensors? No, it doesn't have any of those things, but I do think that it has a lot to offer, specifically if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a phone while still getting a performance, still getting the quality, and still getting what you want and need from a phone, especially if you're a content creator, if you're someone who uses your phone a lot. The Pixel 6 Pro is everything you're looking for, just for a lower price point without compromise. That's it for today's video. If you did like the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell, you know what to do, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of the review and what you think about the phone and what you have thought about previous Pixel phones if you have had any, and what are you most excited about the future of Pixel phones. So I'll catch you all in the next time. Bye-bye.